So, welcome everybody. My name's Kara Matsukane. I'm the author of the Substack publication She Who Makes. I write about the creatrix archetype and support women in reconnecting with themselves and designing a life and work that they love and is an expression of their divine spark. And I have Natasha with me here. Natasha, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Is this like to Substack? I guess in Substack terms, I write Coming Home, which is all about coming back to yourself, coming home to yourself after years of disconnection, basically self-abandonment.
Great, thanks. And feel free to also introduce, what you do, what your practice is about.
Okay, yeah. So my main work is as an intuitive and as an inner child coach and author, and I look at the energy of what's going on for people, and I see essentially what the root is by looking at their energy system, and then we work with it either through talk, mostly through inner child connection and energetic connection and clearing. I realize maybe that, I don't know if you have questions about that. Sometimes I'm in my own bubble and
Sure. I mean, that all translates well to me. I don't know about everybody else who's listening, but we can definitely unpack that a little bit and clarify what we mean when we talk about energy and clearing. But yeah, thank you. I would love to hear more about the inner child piece. And Natasha and I met through Substack, which it's such a great platform to meet other creators and writers who resonate with your own work. And I don't even remember how exactly we met or how we connected, but I just knew that our work was really aligned. And so I was excited to chat more. And we had a chance to chat a few weeks ago and learn how similar our work is. So, but I wanted to ask you, Natasha, I know in your bio, you say you help sensitive people trust themselves and self-trust. I actually just posted something else about self-trust because it feels like in the collective, that's something that's really coming up for people, especially for women who are creative, about trusting themselves. And then this line really stuck with me, which is, you're not confused, you're overwhelmed. And so I'd love to hear from your perspective, like why you chose that word overwhelmed and how for you that connects to the energetics of things for people who are highly sensitive.
Yeah. Well, I said, especially that first part, you're not confused, because I think especially women doubt, we're kind of trained to doubt ourselves, or like our voices aren't heard, aren't validated. And we go into a place of, oh, I'm confused, when often that's a protective part of ourselves to keep us from connecting to our whole self, to connecting to whatever knowledge is underneath that confusion. And the overwhelm piece, it's kind of twofold. One, I see a lot of people absorbing other people's energies, feelings, all of it. Like oftentimes what I hear from people is they aren't sure what's theirs or other people's. And that creates a lot of overwhelm. I actually chose it though, because I asked my people, my community, what they are going through. And it really all distilled down to not trusting themselves and feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, confused about like who they are underneath all of that. So yeah, and I think also we live in this capitalistic culture that teaches us about that, basically, ties productivity with worth, and that also confuses us. It makes it hard to know where our center is, and hard to know what's mine versus others, or what's mine versus society's. We're underneath this pressure that creates a lot of overwhelm that isn't something we're even aligned with. So separating from all of that can be a process. My newsletter is called Coming Home, because all these different paths lead home to ourselves. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I actually was just sharing about in a post that whole our worth being tied to productivity and how impactful that is. Cause like rest, it feels like I'm dealing with some health things, and it
Mhm.
feels like resting requires that I earn the rest. So asking to rest and asking my husband to pick up some of the slack around the home, or asking some women in my circles to support me, it feels so that I can rest. I feel so guilty. and I
Yeah.
and I know, like, I know everything you're talking about. I have been sharing about like rest as resistance, which is a book written by another creator. Her name is escaping me right now, but she has a whole platform based on that, and resistance to capitalism and the patriarchy through rest. So it's like I believe in these things, but then embodying them myself is still really challenging.
Well,
And
yeah, because we absorb our environment. We are all connected to all things. We're not separate. That's another lie that we're told, that we are just like these, we're all just so separate. We used to live in villages, would take care of each other. That's one thing. And also, just on a spiritual level, I don't believe that we're separate from each other. And we do absorb each other's energies. And I mean, people who maybe doubt it or don't understand it, understand that feeling of like walking into a party and suddenly feeling off, like you can feel the vibes are off. Like that's something we recognize. Or you walk into someone's house and it feels, or it can feel positive too, like, oh, it feels so good in here. That's all real. That's all a way that something most people recognize as real. And that's a way we absorb energy. And the same is true if you zoom out in the collective and the systems that we are run by. So when we're told generation after generation, it's also like in our DNA and our bones, depending on, like, different cultures have it stronger or less. But some cultures are very much about work, 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 work is your worth. And so if you're born into that, you can't help but, it's literally in your DNA to feel that. So we are resisting the patriarchy. We are resisting this more masculine, and there's nothing wrong with obviously masculine energy, but we have been told that's the only way. That's the only right way to be. So it's hard to unwind from that. We will have parts of ourselves that are like, wait, that's not safe. We can't rest.
right.
So yeah, getting into, the more you can know yourself and understand where it's coming from, the easier it can be compassionate. But it's hard to unwind from all of that.
Yeah, totally. It sounds like from everything I've read of your work and talking to you that you've been on your own journey of learning yourself and healing your inner child. I know you wrote a book about healing the inner child, which is awesome. Where did all this start for you? Like, how did you get onto this path?
Well, I'm thinking, how far back do I want to go? How far back does it go? I mean, I was raised in a very narcissistic family. My mom was extremely narcissistic. So I didn't know who I was. It was not safe for me to know who I was. I had to be whoever she needed me to be. And I went to therapy, I guess, pretty young for most people. I mean, I was like in my early 20s when I started therapy. Um, but I grew up in the Bay Area, and I've always been more, I guess, spiritually inclined. People, you could say woo woo or whatever, but that was like pretty accepted in the culture that I grew up in. I mean, my parents were kind of like, they didn't care one way or the other, but my peers were more into that. I learned the psychic training that I do. It actually took me, I was about 30 when I first learned it. And I did it just for myself. I'm 56 now, so that was 26 years ago. But I just did it for myself, and I found immediately that was the thing that was like, I suddenly knew who I was. Like, I learned about my own energy field, and I suddenly felt like, oh, I am here. I could feel the difference between me and other people.
Mm.
which again was not okay. Like, and my mom did not allow for that. It was all about her, and she was extremely dominating. So I learned how to clear out my energy. I learned just who I was, and I felt it, and that was a big part of it. Then I started to do it for, eventually, it took me a while, but I started my own practice in it. And that's when I found the inner child. I didn't know about IFS, which is an amazing system, and with parts work. But I found the inner child because I would look at people's energy and I would see 9 times out of 10 or 9.5 times out of 10, there was an inner child part underneath whatever was going on for them. They, no matter what was happening, I could see there was like different parts of themselves in their energy that needed connection, that was basically stuck in the experience.
Mm.
So that's how I found that. I got really into that. And then I actually had a friend that was like, do you know about parts work? And I was like, no, I didn't even know. So then I did learn about that. And it is an amazing system. But yeah, that's how I came to it.
Great. Okay. So there's a few threads I want to tug on there. So, one, for anyone who doesn't know, IFS is internal family systems. It was a term coined by Richard Schwartz. If you want to learn more, you can Google it and find some of his YouTube videos. The book No Bad Parts is also fantastic. It's kind of an introduction to the type of parts work that he has created. Highly recommend. There's meditations in there that are very practical so that you can start connecting with your own inner parts. Can you explain for people who maybe haven't been in the same circles that you and I have been in, like what you mean when you say psychic training? Because I think for a lot of people, they hear the word psychic and they think about like some
Yeah.
quack on the side of the road with a crystal ball. So I
Yeah.
just want to explain what that means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard because psychic is a word that has been maligned, and it also doesn't, it's kind of an umbrella word. I think most people think of it as like telling the future, which is not what I do. But what I mean is essentially tuning into your own energy. So that kind of, the way I like to describe the aura is like that feeling you have when someone comes up behind you and you don't turn around, but you just have a sense that they're there. That's someone touching on your aura. You can just kind of feel that sense of your aura. So psychic training, energy, I say also energetic tools, are learning all of the different facets of yourself and how to take care of it, just like you take care of your physical body. There's so many ways to do that. It's the same with the energetic body. And not everybody is so in touch with their physical body. Some people are more comfortable actually with their energetic body without even realizing it. Like if you, again, are someone who like picks up on other people's feelings or moods or that type of thing, I think it's so vital that you know how to take care of your energetic body, because you are picking up some people are more absorbent than other people.
Yeah.
And even if you are a person who is very centered on your physical body, you still do have an energetic body. So it's just good to be able to know how to care for yourself in that way. It's for me, again, it was like an easier path into, ironically, solidly knowing my body, because I was so porous, and when I knew how to take care of it, then I could feel myself. I could come back to myself and know myself. So yeah, I don't know if I explained it well, but there's many layers. There's to our energetics, and we can't see it with our eyes, so it's a little bit hard to explain. But everybody has an intuition. It's not we're kind of taught that it's either this, like you said, like something that only quacks do, or that it's some special skill that is only for the gifted. And the truth is, it is a skill. You do have to learn how to know it, but only because we've been taught that it's not real. I think if we understood that, if we all just knew it as a society, then it would just be, something that was normal for us. I hear stories like a lot of times kids will see auras and then they don't know how to talk about it. They're dismissed, or they don't know what it is, and then it just kind of goes away because we're not using it. It's like if you use it, it grows.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's been my experience too with learning myself and reconnecting with myself, which I think is like a part of the healing process, is reconnecting to places we've disconnected. And I think children are so in tune. And I've taken some classes and I've read some books. And one of the things that I learned is that we all have psychic senses, and they're like our physical senses in that some people might have better hearing or better sense of smell. Some
Exactly.
people might be better with clairvoyance, which is clear seeing,
Hmm.
or claircognizance, which is clear knowing. That's one of
Yeah.
mine, is I just know things.
Yeah.
And until you start paying attention to them and kind of honing them,
Yeah.
they're probably seeping through in your day-to-day life, like where you just have this like gut feeling that something's off, or like you said, you walk into an area and the energy feels weird to you. I mean, people talk about this, like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
vibes were off.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
but unless you actually really pay attention and like hone and practice those things and start believing yourself, like having that self-trust, it probably won't go very far. And since I've been believing myself and trusting that more, it's proven over and over again, like I was right about something that I would have no way of knowing at the time that I knew it. So I feel like it's like a really fun way to explore yourself and interact with life,
It
is to
is a fun
dive
way.
into that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is
It's like
really.
you got your owl for Hogwarts.
Yes, it is really fun, and it's life-changing. Like I said, it completely changed my life. I was, like, dating a really not good person, and I immediately was like, "Oh, I'm breaking up with this person." Like, I could feel, I mean, it's so powerful, and it is really fun.
Yeah.
I teach these skills, and the main thing I do as a teacher isn't to give these people a gift or give people abilities. Everybody has it. I would say the main thing I do is just say, yeah, I see what you're seeing. You're right. You're right. Like, not because I'm yesing them but because most people's intuitions are correct. What's fun is, and it does require the feeling of fun, because if you're too serious, then you're in your logical brain and you are not in your whole self to be able to play with it. So my main jobs are to help people have fun, help people play, and to encourage, to just be validating,
Yeah.
because we don't get that validation a lot. And again, I'm not giving validation when it's not like if somebody
Sure. Yeah.
really it wasn't there.
Yeah, but I
But
mean, that's so
also we're
powerful when someone you trust is validating yourself.
exactly,
Yeah.
yes. And
Yeah.
the other, like, I usually run like small groups, so for this purpose, so that other people, we're all like, other people will look at each other's energy and be like, yes, I see that too, or I get that too. And it helps you to be like, okay, get that skill online.
Yeah.
Because yeah, we do all have, it's so powerful. And there's a
Yeah.
reason why we were taught out of it, like that phrase, like, they didn't burn witches, they burn women. Like, there's a reason why this powerful feminine energy has been thought of as weak. That's how feminine, like, that's why they've, like, rebranded like a girl, because that has been used against, it's all of these things. And this is a huge part, and it's so powerful, of
Yeah.
feminine energy.
Yeah. There was one other thing I was just going to ask you about well, first, I don't want to lose the threads because you're saying so many things and I have so many follow-ups. One thing I wanted to share was I did a honing your intuition class years ago, and there were like 6 or 7 women in that class, and we would meet on Zoom. And one of the exercises we had was everyone brought an object from their life, and we just held it up on Zoom, and everyone would write down whatever they were reading, like whatever we got, like
Yeah.
information we got.
Yeah.
And I remember one woman held up it looked like a pillow from like World Market that had mirrors on it and stuff and
Yeah.
embroidery. And I wrote down, like, I see a woman in a minivan with a bunch of kids singing. And I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know this person. I have no
Yeah.
idea what the pillow is for. And she shared that the pillow is her sister's, and her sister had sold her house, packed up her kids, and were driving around the United States, like cross country in their minivan. And I was like, what? Like, that was so wild to me because I had no idea how I got that information.
Yes,
But
yes,
it was just a really good reinforcement of like, we have no idea how connected we are, like you were saying, and how we share information with each other all the time. And I think going back to what you said about being porous, I think sometimes when we grow up in homes where we have an adult with big emotions, or we learned that we needed to feel out and navigate those dynamics, we
mhm,
end up more, empathic, empathetic, and more in tune to energy.
yeah,
And so sometimes childhood, negative experiences can actually help develop some of these gifts.
yeah.
Because I've noticed that a lot of people with trauma are actually extremely intuitive and in tune.
Well,
So
we
one,
have to be for safety. I mean,
right,
it is a trauma response.
right,
It can
yeah,
be.
it's like a
Mhm.
survival skill.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to ask you, given that you're porous, and we're probably talking to a lot of women who experience the same thing, what are your energetic clearing rituals, or what do you do to protect your energy?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many ways, and that is an important thing. Like, for instance, when I teach my class, I start with boundaries because that is the main, especially if you're reading other people's energy, like in a class like that, you want to make sure you are in your center. When I do readings, I always make sure I'm first center. If I check myself throughout, that I'm not merging with the other person, that you don't have to get information by merging. But I mean, a really simple one is imagining. Actually, I had a student in one of my psychic classes tell me about this, and it's just like an easy way to do it because I mean, you can get in touch with your aura, but if that's hard for you to imagine, you can just imagine like a hula hoop around you so that your energy stays there and other people's energy is out there. Just once you do that, if you can imagine this hula hoop around you, you might start to notice like, oh, I pull forward a lot or I move back a lot. It kind of centers you. And I have it as gold light because that is just a really neutral energy. And then at the end of the day, you can imagine releasing that hula hoop, like imagine it going up to the light and just calling your energy back to you and filling up with light. Filling up with light is a really important one because it's actually your highest energy, it's your higher self energy, and that's kind of its own protection. If you're filling up with you, it's not about like, oh, we have to brace and keep other people out. It's more about building yourself up more. The more that you're in your center, the more you have your energy, you don't have to worry as much about absorbing other people.
Mm, yeah, makes sense. Great. Yeah, I think some of the things I've learned to do over time too is like use water or earthing, like being on the earth to
Yeah.
help. Like, and I visualize that anything that's not mine, like going into the water, going into the earth.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'll use smoke cleansing. Sometimes I'll do a visualization of like a white bubble around me.
Hmm.
Especially when I'm scared, I've noticed like
Hmm.
if I'm walking alone somewhere and I feel nervous, I'll like create a white protective bubble around me.
Great. Yeah.
And oh, another thing that a friend shared with me once that I've used is when you're in a situation where someone is angry at you or aggressive, imagining an armor of mirrors going up in front of you,
Mhm. Nice.
because it like reflects it back to them.
Yeah.
So I've
Yeah.
used that before.
That's good. Yeah. The reason I just start with that hula hoop is because it's also not it's just so simple. Like if
Yeah.
you're in a situation with an aggressive person, you can just like, or you can imagine, I do a lot of things with the aura, but like zipping up your aura. If you can
Mm,
imagine, like you kind of have a thing around you and you're zipping it up, that's also a really helpful one.
yeah,
But yeah,
that's
there's
great.
so many ways using the elements. Wind, like imagine wind clearing out your energy is a good one. Light is, like I said, I love light. Yeah, and the earth, especially if you're more of an earthy person, the earth is like is an easy one to connect to.
Yeah, totally. Great. I'd like to talk a little more about inner child work, and just for people who aren't familiar with what that means or what that is, will you share what you've done for yourself with inner child work, or what you work with your clients on?
Yeah. So essentially, we're talking to ourselves all day long, all the time. And we think that we are a monolith in a way. But really, if you think about it, you have times when you're scared or you're sad or whatever. And if you check in with yourself, you can ask, like, how old do I feel right now? A lot of times it's not just pure sadness especially with anxiety, it's almost always a part of yourself. So if essentially inner child work is relating to yourself like you are a little family instead of just being like a monolith, like just one voice, you're a little family. And it makes it easier. For me, it was the best way in for self-love, because it's hard to think of yourself as well, I heard the study that when people think of their future self, it doesn't stick because they feel like a stranger. And I feel like in some ways it's the same with ourselves. Sometimes we can feel like strangers to ourselves, or we feel like we take ourselves for granted in a way, like we're just this one voice. But if you can start to separate, like, oh, my sadness, how old does that feel? Oh, it feels like a really young part. A lot of times it makes it easier to have compassion for ourselves or to relate to ourselves better. And even like with the inner critic, a lot of times what I found is that's a teenage part.
Mm,
So if we can start to relate with some type of understanding, like, you also use curiosity. Like, I wonder why I'm talking to myself like that. What's going on? Curiosity is an amazing way to get a little space. So essentially, inner child work is a great way to get space from whatever it is that you are, especially if you're triggered, if you're in a heightened state, that it's a great way to get a little space from it, almost like you're bringing in your best friend to be at the helm of things, because most of us are unconsciously being run by inner child parts.
mhm.
Like a lot of relationships, it's two inner children talking to each other.
Yeah.
So once you start to recognize, it's really just a process of getting curious with yourself and kind of overriding familiar tracks of however, because most of the way, unless you bring in that consciousness, a lot of the way we talk to ourselves is conditioned. It's how we were taught to talk to ourselves. And then those parts get stuck. We end up being those ages, and our bodies grow, but our psyche doesn't. So it's a way of breaking that up so that we can relate to ourselves differently.
Great. Yeah, I think it's if for anyone who's a mom, it's similar to like with a child, like an actual child that you have that's your child. That if you ignore them, they'll get louder. And it's the same with your inner children. Like they're trying to get your attention. There's a need that's not being met. They're triggered by something. And so if
Or
you
yeah,
bring that curiosity, listen to them, work with them, that will work better than just like ignoring or trying to shove that part of yourself down.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes they get louder, sometimes they shut down. So a lot of
Mm,
times if you're feeling numb or like you don't know what you like, it's because you haven't been listening to the part, so the part just gives up.
that's a
I
great point.
think the loud part's often a critic. That's the part that's like a teenager having a tantrum a lot of times. That's like, well, you're not going to listen to me, so I'm just going to be mean to you because that's one way you do listen to me.
Right. Yeah, totally. Um, there was something else I was just going to ask you. Shoot. I think I lost it. That's okay. Is there anything else? I know we're kind of coming up on time here. Is there anything else that you would like to share? Or I guess I'd ask, is there anything else that wants to be shared in this space for anyone who's listening to this?
About anything in particular or just
The topics we've been talking about, there's something that occurred to me that I'll share, but I just wanted to
oh,
ask you
right.
too.
Yeah, go ahead and share.
I think the one thing that I want to share that wants to be heard is whoever's listening to this, you are gifted. Like you've been told that you're not, you've been conditioned to think that you're not gifted, but there's a small voice inside of you that's always known that you're gifted. And so follow that voice and follow the breadcrumbs that get left for you. And for some reason, the imagery of a bunny keeps coming up for me. So if that means anything to anybody and it's a symbol you've been asking for, go with whatever that means for you with the bunny.
That's so funny. I live around so many bunnies. There's like all these bunnies in our yard all the time. Yeah, what you said about breadcrumbs is something that I say a lot, is that we're kind of taught to believe that intuition is something that's going to hit us over the head. And usually it's these tiny little breadcrumbs. Even when I'm looking, let's say, at something more dramatic, like, or something more difficult to sense, like a past life, I just follow the, like, oh, here's one piece of information, then another piece of information. So on a practical daily level, listening to, oh, I have an urge for coffee right now or something. That is your intuition speaking to you. Or, I mean, not always, but sometimes you'll get this tug where it's just like this knowing. The more you pay attention to that, the more it builds, the more the trust comes up.
Yeah.
Because that's another thing I guess I was saying before about the inner child. When we ignore ourselves over and over, that creates a break with self-trust. And then we think it's gone, but it's never gone. And one thing I found with working with so many people is that it's actually pretty easy to come back. Our inner children are kind of like actual children out in the world. They want to trust us. So even if there's a little bit of lack of trust at first, it's so easy to build that trust up. You just have to start. You just have to start, like, just valuing yourself, listening. You don't always have to act on it. It doesn't mean you have to make huge changes immediately. Just start listening.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also a thing, is a lot of times people feel like they have to act on every ping they hear, every intuitive ping, you don't. You just have to acknowledge it. Just say, like, oh, I hear that. Oh, that's something I want. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's something that's coming up. That's interesting. I'll just pay attention.
Yeah, and believing yourself when your inner knowing shows up. And like you said, it's really subtle. So it does take practice to listen to it and sometimes act on it. And the more you do that, the more you'll hear it, I guess. The
more you'll know, oh, that's real. Like, that's something to pay attention to. It's more familiar. You just know, oh, that's what it sounds like when a part of me needs this, or, oh, that's what it sounds like when I don't feel safe with somebody. And if you've overridden, like, I'm just going to hang out with these people, it's not nice not to, let's say that example, the more you listen, like, you know what, I don't want to do that, it starts to become familiar and you take it more seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thanks for sharing. I think that's everything, unless there's anything else you would like to say.
No, I'm good. Okay, Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. It was so fun collaborating. If anybody is watching this or listening later and has any questions, feel free to reach out to either Natasha or myself. We'll include links to each other's publication or websites.
I guess I will say, in my book, I also have, my book is called Inner Child Healing, Reparenting Yourself for a More Secure and Loving Life. And it has lots of exercises, meditations, both on energetics and inner child work.
Perfect.
To really dig into it.
Yeah, great resource. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you soon. All right. Bye, Natasha.
Bye.